This episode of PixelPerfect is brought to you by Netflix and GoDaddy.com. Welcome to PixelPerfect with me, Bert Monroy, the show where all kinds of things go on. On today's show, my good old friend Deke is coming back to show us yet another cool trick. Today's background is by Crystal West. Check this out. And I'm back. Did you see the light? Do you see the light? I want my entire congregation to come down with me down to the chapel, and we'll say a little prayer for CS5, which we'll see that sometime soon. But before we start, let's thank our sponsors. GoDaddy.com. They make it easy to customize your own virtual dedicated server. Choose one of 3 popular plans or select your own Linux or Windows server with all the plan options you need. Plus, if you enter the code Pixel4 when you check out, you'll save an additional 15% of any order of $75 or more. Also, be sure to check out the revision3.com/GoDaddy for all the PixelPerfect GoDaddy deals and codes. And there's a whole bunch of them on there. But, you know, some restrictions apply. So see the site for details. Get your piece of the internet at GoDaddy.com. I also want to thank Netflix for sponsoring PixelPerfect. And with them, with Netflix, you can rent over 90,000 titles online, including lots of Blu-ray titles with free shipping both ways to your home. 90,000. You can stay home for the rest of your life and just watch movies. The Netflix plans start from as little as $4.99, and as a new member, you can get a no-risk 2-week free trial membership. Check it out at www.netflix.com/PixelPerfect. Remember to type in that www when using that code. 90,000 titles. Boy, that's a good one. All right, so now, on to the show. Last couple of weeks, I had Deke McClellan here, one of the Photoshop gods, wrote the Photoshop Bible. That goes with today, right? Church, Bibles, Deke McClellan, all this spiritual stuff. All right, so he's back. Now, I know you guys say he never left. He was here before. He's been hanging out, but here he is. Deke, all the way from the corner. Good to see you again.
How you doing, man?
So what are we going to do today?
Well, today we're going to take a look at smart objects. It's kind of a combination of a couple different things. We're going to do some smart object work, some camera raw smart objects specifically, and then we're going to throw in some type, and that type is going to invert everything behind it. So it's a little combination of a photographic technique for those of you who are photographers, a little combination also of a design technique for those of you who are designers. I actually don't care what your job is. There's all kinds of stuff going on here that you might find useful. So
cool. There you go.
Here's the deal. Got 2 images. You can see right here, 2 different photographs. They both started off as raw images. We'll see them in just a moment. But they both come to us, I need to credit this guy, they both come to us from a photographer named Paul Piabinja, who works with iStockPhoto.com. But in this case, he just gave me the photos directly, these raw photos right here. And this is kind of a classic like yearbook shot, right? You know, sort of a little bit campy. And we have in the back, there's both the shots of the exact same model. And there she is, sort of brightly lit in the background. There she is, dark in the foreground here because she's falling in the shadow, let's say. And then this type down here at the bottom, Michelando, which is my new cosmetic line here, where that's going to invert everything behind it. So anyway, I'm just going to take these 2 layers that I've created in advance just to show you what's going on. I'm going to get rid of them, and we'll start from scratch here. And I'll go up to the File menu. Now, that's very important in case you don't know what's going on with smart objects. Smart objects are special kinds of layers where basically the pixels are protected. So the pixels are wrapped up in these little envelopes, and then you can do anything to the envelopes that you want. And you're not going to hurt the original pixels inside the images. Now, if you go to the File menu and choose the Place command, you are going to bring the image into your composition, and you're going to bring it in as a smart object. That's how it works in Photoshop CS3. That's how it works inside Photoshop CS4. So CS3 is when we start seeing, actually CS2, it works too. So we'll go to the place command, and I'll grab Madhu1, and Madhu's, I believe, the name of the model. And you can see this is a DNG file, digital negative file, so that's a RAW file, one of the many RAW file formats out there, meaning it's a camera RAW image. So it was shot with a digital camera in whatever RAW file format was offered. I'll go ahead and click on the place button here. And then I'm going to get this little place cursor eventually after that. Oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to get the camera raw interface, of course. So we're going to see the camera raw dialog box for starters. We can mess with the settings if we want to. I don't want to turn this into a camera raw lesson, so do whatever you want. I've already done this in advance, so she looks beautiful. So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. And then I'm getting the little preparing smart objects thing there. And now I am seeing the placed image. Now I'm going to go ahead and zoom out just a little bit to take in more of the image at a time, you know, and I want to zoom out this way, there we go, so that I have a little space to deal with on the sides. And I'll go ahead and drag this over to about this location right there. I'm just trying to create an effect that looks good. You know, I'm just trying to do some designer work here. And this looks great. Now the thing is, when you're doing a place, you can see that we've got this frame that's set up right here, and you can see that it's coming in at 82.2%, whatever. We really don't care that much. The thing is, you can go ahead and scale this image exactly the way you want it to be, but because it's coming in as a smart object, automatically you can always turn around and scale that differently without any penalty whatsoever. So you have non-destructive scaling, non-destructive transformations in general when you're working with smart objects inside of Photoshop. So it's very forgiving. All right, so I'll just go ahead and press the Enter key, and we've placed her into place. Let's go ahead and grab the other portrait now, and I'll go to the File menu, same darn thing. Choose the place command. This is just the easiest way to create a smart object. And I want you to see this just for a second. You know it's a smart object because you have that little page icon right there. And you might wonder why it's a little page icon. It's sort of showing you, it's as if we're working inside of an InDesign or some layout program that's accepting linked images. The difference is, it is kind of linked in that that original image is protected. I can't make pixel level modifications to the image directly here, but it's embedded inside the file. So this original pixel file, it's living inside of the larger composition. So I just want to stress that. Anyway, this shows you got a smart object. All right, so I'll go to the place command once again. Let's grab madhu2.dng, different version of the image as you can see there in the preview. Click the place button. Here she goes. She's a tall version, which we don't want for the backgrounds. We don't want tall images for the backgrounds, Bert.
No, they break up and I lose it, and all I see is a lips. Yeah.
But for the foreground here, it's going to work out beautifully. So I could make changes, but I'm going to come back to that in a second. All right, so I'm not going to make changes to the image. I'm going to click OK just to bring her in. She's going to come into the image like so. Now I want her to be bigger than this. I'm going to actually scale her larger, and I could either do it now or I could do it later.
And it automatically reduces to the dimensions of the image.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Right now it's scaling.
54%, yeah.
That's no good. You know what? I'm just going to accept it, though. Let's just press the return key. That's not what I want. I want her to take up a larger portion of the foreground. I just want you to show you how forgiving this is. Let's get rid of that Ghostbuster icon. I'll switch to the marquee tool. I had the gradient tool selected from the last show. But I'll go up to the image menu. That's the edit menu, actually. So I'll go to it. Go to Free Transform, Command-T, Control-T on a PC. And you can see, look at that. You mentioned that it's 54.8%, which is so delightful of you. It still is. It's remembering that's, you know, it's not like it thinks it scaled the pixels and made them smushier, and now we're going to make them bigger, which would make them sort of, you know, blurrier. It's remembering the original data. So now I can go ahead and, let's say, sort of do a shift drag on one of these corner handles, drag it down a little bit, like, oh, I'm dragging the target. Let's drag this down a little bit. That's that origin point for the transformation here. And I'm kind of doing a look over here on the sheet of paper because I've done this in advance, and I want to make sure that I'm putting her in place. So a little bit of a cheat. Forgive me, Bert, for cheating on your show.
That's all right. Okay, I won't tell.
I know. Yeah, don't tell anybody. that would ruin everything. What a giveaway. All right, so I'll go ahead and just mess up some more. There, let's drag that handle right there. And I'm doing a shift drag, and ultimately I want it to be about 80%. So I'm kind of watching those values up there in the options bar. Anyway, this looks pretty good. Maybe drag her down just a little bit. Again, I'm just doing this for the sake of having a magical, beautiful design here for my advertisement, because my brand, McClelando, is very important to me. All right, so I'll go ahead and accept this modification by pressing the return key or the enter key on the PC. Now, you might notice a seam there. Can you see that seam?
Oh, really? I thought she cut herself shaving or something there.
You can see it because you have a keen eye. Other people might miss it. But to get rid of, what we want to do is we want to get rid of that white background so that she's blending into herself right there. And we'll do that. We'll just drop out that background using a blend mode. No masking required or anything like that. We'll just do a multiply, because we're working against the white background. So we'll go ahead and choose multiply, and you can see seam goes away, right? And we have a nice integration of those two images. Now, if you've ever done this kind of shooting where you have a person, let's say she's two different people, because you can't really do this kind of shot in real life, but we'd have an image, a model that's a little farther away from the camera and a model that's a little closer to the camera. We're bound to have different lighting going on, because you're going to be in the light or out of the light. Right. And let's say for our sake, she's going to look even better if she's more darkly lit. The foreground image, that is, the very far foreground. So what I'll do is I'll double click. She's still a smart object. If I double click on her, if it was a typical pixel-based smart object, I would access the original pixels. This is a camera raw smart object, so I access camera raw. So let's go ahead and modify some settings here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this brightness value down to 0 in order to darken her up. And I think that's all I want to do. Again, I'm looking at my cheat sheet. This looks pretty good. Yeah. So we'll click OK. And what's beautiful about this is we're still working from that original 10-bit per channel, raw data. So we're working from the really good information, and we're not making a modification using an adjustment layer, which wouldn't be as good in this case, and we're not using a static adjustment either. So this is perfect. All right, now what I want to do is I want to take this text right here, and that's on this text layer, and it could be live text. It doesn't matter. I went ahead and converted it to pixels because I don't have the right font on this machine, but it could be live text. And what I want to do is I want to turn it into text that's going to invert everything behind it. So step number 1 is to fill the text with white. Now, by default, white would be my background color, like so. So the text layer is active. I just want to fill the opaque pixels. I don't want to fill any of the transparent pixels. So I'll do a Command-Shift-Delete. That's a Control-Shift backspace on the PC. Just one of those little fill tricks that's available inside Photoshop. So now we have white text, not quite inverting anything so far. It's another blend mode trick. Go to the blend mode pop-up menu up here in the layers palette and switch to difference, right? You know all about that one. So we get this invert text effect, but I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I don't want that blue. Got that blue in the background there? I don't want that blue. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. I just want it to be either white or black, and that's it, right? So what we need to do is first rob it of saturation, and then we're going to do a levels technique on it so that we're either white or black text here. So for the first step here, we're going to go ahead and apply a hue saturation adjustment to that layer. We're going to do that by going down here to this little black-white icon. I'm pressing the Option key or the Alt key, by the way, so that I can go ahead and name this guy as I create it. Go ahead and choose hue saturation. Because I have older option, I'm getting the new layer dialog box. I'll call this no color. Let's say derivative color. Turn on this checkbox, very important. Use previous layer to create clipping mask. That way we're just affecting the text. Click OK. We'll get the adjustments palette up here in CS4. You'd get a dialog box in CS3, whatever. Reduce the saturation to 0, which did nothing. Why did it do nothing, Bert? Why does it task us? Why does it do that kind of stuff? I'm not real. I'm just, you know, shooting the stuff with you. Look, if I were to get rid of the clipping group right there, it's definitely robbing the image of saturation. All right, so I'll undo that. So here's the problem. Got to go back to the text layer, and I'll double click on it. You got these 5 checkboxes. I don't expect you to understand what everything's doing here. These 2 top guys are useful if a blend mode or an adjustment layer or something like that isn't working out the way it should. And you can just go ahead and say, you know, between the 2 of them, you just kind of turn them on and off to check out what's going to happen. If I turn it on and then turn this guy off, it didn't make any difference. Let's try this guy instead. I'll turn it off. It did make a difference. So what it's saying is, instead of doing whatever it did before, it's going to go ahead. What it was trying to do before is remove the saturation from the text and then apply the difference mode, right? So that wasn't going to do any good because the text was white, so there was no saturation to remove. This way, it's applying the difference mode first and then removing the saturation, which is what we want. But just turn off the checkbox. Click OK. All right, now we'll go ahead and add another layer. This time, I want levels. You could go with something like threshold to do a black or white. You know, I want this area to be white and this area to be black is the idea. But I want a little bit of soft drop off, so levels is our guy right there. I'll choose level, have the option key down, the Alt key on the Mac, and I'll say B or white, and that just allowed me to name the layer as I create it. Use previous layer to create clipping mask. Very important, turn that on. So we're just affecting the text. Let's go ahead and move this guy to top, actually. I'm not sure why he appeared there because the text layer was active. Yeah, so, all right, so check this out. Let's get adjustments, move over. Let's go ahead and drag this over, and I'm making the dark darker. And I'll make the light lighter, like so. So we're basically, it's either a white or black proposition with a little bit of softness in this area right here. So we'll have a little bit of gray drop off, and that'll just be nice for some naturalism. Now check this out. I get that text layer, and I will, let's go to the move tool just for larfs. So text layer is active, watch this. If I drag this around, it's gonna invert anything behind it on the fly.
Isn't that gorgeous? Fantastic.
All right, I'll undo the maneuver. So that's it. That's all I have to show. Goodbye. Gotta go.
So the thing is now, how does McClendon smell?
You know, it smells awful. But we're working on,
So
right now we're working on the branding.
He's wearing it now.
There's some kinks to work out in the product, but it looks good.
Oh, that's great. No, this is a good job. There's a lot of stuff that went on in there. And like I've always said, no, I was only kidding. Anyway, you know, like I always say, if there's, you saw those little controls in there, a lot of different controls. Sometimes pushing a button here, pushing a button there is going to change the way something is going to work completely. So it's a question of going in there and experimenting.
Be bold.
He does it all the time.
Be bold.
Experiments.
Fearless.
Mostly he screws up, but he experiments all the time. He has fun with it.
That's how you learn. It's screwing up, man.
That's it. Exactly. By sitting there and playing. Don't consider this stuff work. It's playing. That's how you learn. Now, if there's anything you'd like to see on the show and you just can't get it by playing, send me an email. Send it to Bert@revision3.com. And also you can check out the forums at revision3.com/forums where you can join discussions about the show and who knows, maybe even influence a future show. Thanks again to Crystal West for submitting our beautiful background image. And we're back. And again, thanks for Deke McClellan.
Can I mention my site?
Sure. It's going to be right down there. It's right there. See it? Right
oh, it is. All right. Deke.com.
Deke.com. There's all kinds of stuff. You can learn stuff there and links to all the places where you can learn stuff from Deke. And there's a whole bunch of them. Jesus. 84 books this guy's written.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. Well, I looked it up. So how many books did
Yeah. Well,
I think Scott's the only one that's beat you on that.
He hasn't beat me. Scott hasn't beat me.
Well, he wrote like 4,637
Yeah, he just wrote them yesterday, though. I wrote them way back.
Oh, okay. You go from way back. Well, Photoshop Bible. Big fat book. About this much is good, but only kidding. So, I hope you learned something from this. Remember to sit and play. Best way to learn. And if you want your stuff back here, you've done all this playing, you come up with some really beautiful masterpieces and you want to see it back here, send your designs to me at Bert@revision3.com. And your background has to be, it says should be on the little teleprompter here, but it has to be 1280 by 720 pixels and a JPEG. Thank you for watching the show, and I hope to see you again next week.